when do I know that my business is ready to explore funding?
I hate it when women come and say that I have मुझे numbers नहीं समझ में आते हैं, I don't like this.
What is the crux of a good pitch deck?
We are very afraid of Gen Zs coming into the workforce. The probability of a female being the CEO of the company is even 0.1%.
They say we overthink, but we really don't. We're just planning
We're
better.
just planning better.
Yeah. Now with Shark Tank, there's this new show called Idea Bars. Is it more for the fame or the funds?
I might receive a backlash for this.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Founders podcast. Today I'm sitting with somebody who has 2 decades of experience in shaping brands of India. We're going to be deep diving into what women entrepreneurs need before they're looking for funding, what is digital transformation for brands, and how has she been building this space for the last 20 years. Joining me today is Priyanka Agrawal, the co-founder of Punt Partners. Hi Priyanka, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great and thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. It's a lovely setting and I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I think I'm very excited to know 20 years. I think that's a long period of time. What's kept you going? What's been your inspiration?
I think there's always this, I've been a rebel kid all my life. So to an extent that when my father said that, medical is good for kids, like medical is for girls, I said medical, I'm not doing medical. I will do something else because that's the kind of vibe which I have. What for me, creating something which is different, creating something which is unique, and just have the brain cells working every now and then saying that, ab kya hai? What is the new thing which is coming up? Let's do something different. That thing of let's have a unique perspective on things keeps me going every day. So as I said, mundane makes me yawn. And I like disruption. So when things are really going well, I will disrupt it and do something else. So that's
So I think you mentioned right now, you've obviously had that rebel, curious mindset is what I would say, right? Constantly wanting to know what next. I just wanted to know, when you're seeing Indian businesses even today, right? What are the top 3 things that many businesses miss on when they have to decide whether they need to do this optimization? What is the stage they need to be kind of looking to take on digital transformation, be it with AI right now? Because I still feel there are some businesses who still look from a modern manual working they've coming online.
And I might receive a backlash for this, but I think decision paralysis is the one thing which I feel goes wrong with larger corporates. And when I say decision paralysis, because one, most of the people are working for KRAs. So there is always this thing of we get the best vendors. Best vendors, when I say the size of the vendors is vendor list is larger. We get 3 quotations. We say we ask them what needs to be done, and they will suggest ABC things, and we will implement because we have to show that we have spent. This was the budget allocated. This is the budget we have got, and now they are building it. I think the clarity of vision of what needs to be done sometimes happens in a very small. There might be a very small startup who might be already doing that thing. That to identify that startup and say that you just have to get this person in the mix and we will be sorted. That vision sometimes, because it is hierarchy driven and people have their own KRAs to this thing that, what happened to this budget? Why did you not utilize it? And then what are the effects which we are seeing? Right. So that I think is a problem with the large corporates. Although when it comes to consulting and when it comes to, they have AI use cases, as we say, that they derive the AI use cases of this needs to be done, but there's no unified angle. That is one. And it is all an incremental game which they're playing. I have all of this now incrementally. So we have this innovation framework where we say that you innovate at the core, or you innovate adjacent, or you disrupt. So the leap from core to disruption is not there.
Understood.
They're not thinking that how do I make something, because I have this power of technology to making use of this to be able to disrupt the market. They are still thinking ki isko kaise better karna hai, isko kaise aage jana hai. That's the whole conversation. So the conversation needs to shift according to me, and that's the challenge which they feel.
And how do you think this conversation would shift? Because I agree with you about we just look at, how to optimize this more and how not about how this is going to transform or disrupt a particular industry. So, of course, it's a conversation, but how do you feel like we can inculcate such conversations? Are you seeing such conversations happen, or India is still a little far from having that?
So this also has a couple of legs. Like, I was at a round table for Jaipur Institute of Management where they're trying to decide the curriculum of MBA students. And they had industry experts who were trying to say that how do we incorporate this entire knowledge into the curriculum itself. I think that is a shape-shifting exercise to do, because the young graduates who are coming out with that knowledge then.
Right.
And very relevant to the industry when they come out. Old cadre which is there is afraid of having these conversations. They don't want to have these conversations because they will fall short of saying that I know this or I don't know this. And even no matter how, if you're not an AI native, it becomes a difficult conversation to have because you're always catching up. It's changing on a daily basis. How much can you catch up, right? Like, and AI natives, when they're coming out of these colleges, and the first jobbers, the enthusiasm and the kind of things which they have is completely different. And that is, we need to bring them to the table. We need to do a little reverse mentoring and saying that, okay, you know this, let's do something about it. Empower them a little more to be able to do things. Like, you will know a lot more than I do, and I would learn so much from you because you are using things which I would not have known or done before. I'm still used to the paper and pen. I have to make notes by this thing, but you have somebody who's already giving you pointed summaries of these are the action points you need to take before the next meeting. So I'm saying, I think getting young people into the mix is the first thing companies can do to be able to make that difference, to get that perspective. We are very afraid of Gen Zs coming into the workforce, but trust me, Punt Creative has all Gen Zs. And I love being around them because every day I'm learning something new. And that's how you stay relevant. That's how you know that what is working, what is not working. Some of the campaigns they do, I'm like, I don't understand this campaign. They were like, you won't understand, this is Gen Z. So that's the thing. And I feel even and that holds true for the conversations within large corporates as well.
I love how you tapped into exactly what, like, the corporate leaders, right, the higher management. I think as a younger startup and being in that space, working with Gen Zs and having youngsters and learning AI is like now something, if I don't do, then I'm going to be left behind in the race. And I feel like it just goes back to the trait of not Indians, I would say, but humans, of fear of technology. We're just innately fearful of technology, which the youngsters don't, and they adapt it more. I think that's what leaders need to probably act towards. When do I know that my business is ready to explore funding?
A very simple funda which I have for this thing is, you should raise funds when you're looking for a rocket fuel and not when you're looking for life support.
Okay.
So life support, you will get stripped of your equity, you will get stripped of a lot of control of your company because you are in the surviving mode. So if you've not cracked what your business model is, not cracked how your revenues are going to be, what is your per unit economics. So all of those things, if you have not cracked and it is not functioning, and you need funding to keep the lights on, is the wrong time to raise a fund. If you know that I have made my business till here, I have bootstrapped my way till here. Now, if I don't get in my strong tech team in place, for example, if I don't get in the right people to enable growth, then I will lose to my competition. That is the time you need funding. That's the time you go out. Like, this is a 6 months game for me. If I don't have the funding right now, I can't hire the right people and I can't make it grow to keep my competition at bay.
Right.
That is when you need funding. Or you have a roadmap which you want to execute with a very proven MVP, is when you start raising funds.
I think that's very interesting because you mentioned about MVP and about having the readiness as a startup, right? And I think that also comes to something known as product market fit, as people keep talking. So can you just break it down as a founder, that when do I know I have a product market fit, and are there any specific metrics that define? Like, for example, if I'm a tech app, I should have had at least 10,000 users. Is there a specific metric, or how is a product market fit kind of valued by an investor?
See, the it depends for different types of businesses, and like for tech companies or product apps, which you say, it's a very simpler this thing, that how many monthly active users you have, and what are per the unit economics, as we say, the per user, how much are they paying, and based on that, what is the exponential growth which you can see. So it's a simpler this thing. But the first thing you should do, and I think this is the best thing advice I can give anybody, have as many pick your brains meeting as you can. Find people who you can bounce off ideas with, and have their inputs, and then form your opinion of what this is. So as many people as you know, even if it gets annoying for them, please go have those meetings. Just pick your brain meeting.
So your product market fit is just to know whether the product is accepted, and then you also need to support it with like revenue streams that kind of help you. So that's interesting. Another question on this, right? When I'm getting ready, let's say I'm going for my first ever investor pitch. What are the things you've noticed that most founders get wrong about the funding journey?
At a very fundamental human nature level, being too needy is the first thing. Where you feel like you're very nervous about it in this thing. People fund people. They don't fund the product per se. Like, of course they do, but it's like the confidence which you have, the projections which you have, the clarity which you have is something which gets you through. So even if you don't have a pitch deck with you, but you know your numbers inside out, you know what the value proposition, your moat, if that is very clear, and you can, it is not about you and your idea, it is about knowing the investor and saying that they need it. They are so they will miss out if they don't have it. That's the confidence you need to go have it, because investors are looking for good companies to invest in. They're sitting there for a reason. What is it that you have to say to them that interests them? And not, so it's not about you selling yourself or you selling your this thing. It is about, think about them. What is the kind of things that will interest them, and why should they be investing in you? That's the base this thing. The second is, know your numbers really well. I hate it when women come and say that mujhe numbers nahi samajh mein aate hai, I don't like this, or my partner will say about this. And these are 4 numbers. It's not rocket science. Just learn and have that intention of learning and knowing your business really well. That gives a lot of confidence to people that she knows what she's doing. Or he, across business, it's gender agnostic, but fair. Women tend to do that a little more, that they hand over the mic when it comes to talking about finances, right? So, but know your numbers really well, know your moat really well, know your competition really well. Right. That knowing the competition, because that is one thing people will ask, why not? Why can't this person do it? Why can't any other person who is in your competition with a larger network do it much better than you? Why are you relevant? So your relevance is very important for them. Coming from design, and I obviously want to know this because pitch decks, they're a whole area in itself, right? So what is the crux of a good pitch deck that can help with your investor pitches? So there are a lot of data, and there is a lot of templates which are available online which can get you through a pitch deck. Like Sequoia has their own templates for what they need in a pitch deck. I think those templates you can get, but the personalization of what it means for you is important. So like, if you break down, you will need to have what your vision is, what your moat is, what your time sum and this thing is. You will need to know what your unit economics is, what are you looking for, how will you deploy your funds. All of that is this thing. But what can you show them as a vision, which is so you, in the pitch deck, and the way you structure your pitch deck, and the shorter your pitch deck is the key. They don't have time. Like if you see a Y Combinator, they take 90 seconds to review an application. In 90 seconds, you cannot really write a whole thesis about what you're doing, but they're not reading it. They're looking at your founder's video, they're looking at your value proposition, they're looking at how you think about growing, they are looking at what your moat is. These are the 4-5 things which every
These are like your 4-5 go-to things that an investor looks at.
Other thing is that, which most founders make a mistake, is when asked about their business, they ramble on for like 3-4 minutes saying that we do this, this happened and that happened, and this is very interesting, and that is very interesting, and this is what we do. Have your elevator pitch really, really crisp. If you can't explain in 1 minute, you've lost.
Yeah.
You need to have that one smart line which tells me exactly. And there are formats for elevator pitches as well.
Yeah.
Like, and so have that very, very crisp. And it is very difficult to arrive at an elevator pitch. You know, the most complicated thing is how to make things simple.
Yeah.
That is what it means. Like, you have to have your elevator pitch in place.
Yeah.
For yourself and for others.
Fair. And you mentioned about simple, right? So do I need to have jargon words and everything, or is a simpler language more suited for an investor pitch? What's your advice?
Always a simpler language. The more you sound chat GPT-ish, for lack of a better word, the more they feel that this is not you.
Right, right. So now I have a couple of questions about, like, you mentioned that founders are usually very needy because they just want the funds and that's all they're looking for. What, in your experience, has been an average duration from the day a founder decides they want to get an investment to the day they actually get their first investment? And how many tries does it take? Let's rip the bandage and be honest.
So no particular formula, but if you have the right connects, it can happen within a month.
Okay.
You know the right people, you talk to them, your idea is great, you have and you have a past experience. If you have the past experience of having built businesses and sold businesses, it is not that difficult. You walk in, you say, you get a check. So at least seed investment, people commit to it easily, especially if you know that ecosystem of this thing. But where it gets difficult is Series A, Series B, and that is where it gets difficult. That is where you need to actually have a lot more depth into what you're seeing, the growth path and the pattern which you're seeing, and why you need the money, and what happens to the earlier investors, what is the company structure like, all of those complications, who is exiting, who is not exiting, all of those complications come in. That takes a little longer. So as you go series by series, it becomes a little more difficult, unless you're a unicorn and people are, have a FOMO of, I need a piece of the cake here. But typically that. But if you're a first-time founder with no networks in this, maybe some few people, then for you to take it to even the seed stage, it is a little tough. And you start with friends and family, you start with this thing. For that, if you have a very strong MVP in place, and then try and reach out to angel networks and see if they can, accelerate that growth. But I would say even that, to answer your exact question, might take 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right connection, if you're a first-time founder.
Right.
But also, this is Mumbai, and as they say, कि पत्ते के नीचे भी हो सकती है, पत्थर के नीचे भी हो सकती है. You never know.
Yeah.
So it's like किस्मत कहाँ पे है, you never know.
Yeah, I think that always kind of stays. But I mean, we've always heard of these people say that I had 100 rejections before my first investor pitch, etc. And I'm sure you've had that experience with your brand. So any such brands where you've seen, and especially I want you to highlight on women founders who've had to face rejections, what has your advice been to them, and did they end up getting the funding, and how much did they have to push themselves to get there?
Yeah, I have to talk about this now, a very close friend, Jovita. She runs a brand called Bartisans.
Yeah.
And she was at LXMI event, and she was on the panel, and I was moderating that panel, and she said, I had written 100 emails to hear 100 no's. And it was a nerve-wracking journey, but I kept at it. And she actually, that one yes actually changed the entire game for her. But she had to go through that 100 rejections. She had to. So my co-founder Madhu in Punt Partners, he said, fundraising journey, you have to have your intestines in a bag and that is the journey which it is, because it's the humility which you need to have, your ego to the ground, because you will hear no's. People there has to be one right person who associates with you and your idea. 10 other will not. And that ability to take a no and not say that, for a lack of a better word, fuck this shit, is, that you say that you have to stay on. And she's doing so well right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bartisans is, and it's become a household name.
Yes.
And I mean, I have changed my entire mixer this thing to Bartisans now, but she had to go through a lot of rejection. She has done 2 startups earlier. She herself says that I'm not a successful entrepreneur, I'm a failed entrepreneur in that sense. But that takes such a courage and the charisma to say that I have been through this journey.
Right.
And she's inspirational in so many different ways. If you look at her, and that one yes, and then she went on Shark Tank, and Shark Tank, whatever happened, and it just took her. And post that, things also changed for her. Like the number of people who would have approached her to give the funding and things like that changed. The dynamics of how she runs the business with her son, and how that beautifully translates into this thing. It's multiple things that goes for her. And I think the only thing which you take away from her is never give up.
Yeah.
Unless the market is showing very different signs of now it is time to pivot, you stay your ground. And you say that I know that this is going to succeed. I know this is the need of the market. I have done my user testing. I know what the users are telling me. I need to go on.
Right. No, that's interesting. And I think you mentioned, of course, saw the Shark Tank episode. And now with Shark Tank, there's this new, I don't know if to call it a reality show is the right word, but new show called Idea Bars. What's your take on Indian investors on these shows? And let's just be honest, is it more for the fame or the funds?
Okay, you're putting me in a tough spot. I have investors from there. My honest opinion, if my startup I'm doing Tolmol right now, if that I would never take it to Shark Tank. The only reason, because the amount of funding and the amount of equity I give up for it, it does not make sense. So there's a lot of course you get expertise from the investors who can take you to the next level, but from the math side of it, the amount of equity you give up for your business is quite high for the checks which they send. I would go for government grants. I would go for the Startup India scheme. I would go for Stand Up India scheme if I'm a woman entrepreneur. I would go for that credit guarantee scheme for startups. They from 10 crores to I think from 5 crores to 10 crores you get funding, your equity free funding over
wow.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's a different thing to navigate the government ecosystem, but why wouldn't I start from there?
Right.
See, the Shark Tank does give you a visibility, nationwide visibility. So for the brand propelling standpoint, it is great. The investment point, it would not make sense for me. Let me just say that.
No. Fair, of course. I like that you were very honest about it, because so many women just assume that Shark Tank, and because of how it's obviously being marketed, they feel that's an option. Being somebody who works with so many women, I also don't know how many schemes are there. So can you just break down what are the schemes and grants available for women founders, that they can benefit from when starting out?
So government has a lot of schemes they have started, and I think the whole one thing which Shark Tank has really done well is that it has created that innovation culture in India, where people used to stop their kids saying that government job le lo, it is safe and secure, and they're saying to do a job, versus now you think about doing startups. Kids are doing startups, and it's amazing to see that shift. So that's a cultural shift that has happened. Government is doing a lot of these schemes. So one is like the credit guarantee scheme for startups. From 5 to 10 CR of funding, collateral-free funding you get over there. So you have your proof of concept and things like that. You have Pradhan Mantri Yojana, Mudra Yojana. That is again, it's a smaller amount of fund, but it is it gives you a starting point to start your this thing. So where you don't have to dilute your equity and you can still do start your business with some funds, that scheme is really good. There is I think a Stand Up India fund, which is for women and a little marginalized communities as such. The only thing with which we have realized, and when we were running the LXMI last season, that was also a thing that it is a lot of women said it's very difficult to navigate the system to get through it. So now there are people who can help you get, for a small percentage, they help you get in the right place in the right verbiage and the right format. to get these funding.
Understood.
So I would suggest that if you are someone who can afford to hire somebody to get it done for you, providing all the details and everything. So because there's a lot of registrations you need to do, DIIPT and all of these things. So that it's a hassle when you have to leave your core and do that.
Yeah. No, I think I like what you're saying because it's all about retaining equity. And I feel like when you are starting your business, you are so sold in giving all your time and hours. And then I feel like somewhere we also don't worth the equity that it builds later. And just for the money, you should know the price you're kind of paying. So that's very interesting. And, we spoke so much about funding and investing and the journey of a founder. But I mean, when you still go back and look at the stat, the number of women-led businesses that get funding in our country, it's a very low number.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is there, and do you see that changing in the next few years?
It has been encouraging from the last year to this year.
Okay.
But some of the stats is like this year, we have got some 14.7 billion in funding, in equity funding. Out of that, only 7.5 or something is women-led founders. And even in that, if you have a male and a female co-founder, the probability of a female being the CEO of the company is even 0.1%.
Yeah.
So I think the biases still exist. And this is an hypothesis, I have no way to claim this, but I think because most of the funding is coming in the tech domain, like tech-led products, and we in STEM we don't have too many women still, and that is why the ratio is so disproportionate in that sense. And even when women are in the tech role, so the tech startups generally are founded and co-founded by the IIT sorts of people sitting in a dorm and writing code, and that's the kind of businesses which are getting funded. So it is skewed in that sense. The women-led businesses, so we see in LXMI, are more heart businesses. They're businesses which are very grassroots level, which deal with health, which deal with nutrition, which deal with there is a lady who's building an app for autistic kids. She's doing the dating app for autistic kids, and then training the corporates of when you absorb them in the workforce, how do you interact with the autistic? So they're all, a lot of them are all heart. I'm not saying most of them, but a lot of them are all heart. To fund those businesses, to see the scalability in those businesses is a little tough.
Right.
So that's a reality of life as well.
Right.
And most of the design businesses are led by women, in the sense, but design businesses are services business.
Right.
How many people fund services business?
Right.
So that's the type of industry, and this we are dealing with is a little skewed, and hence the skew in the gender. This thing. The other thing also, even when they have a tech startup and they're going and doing, the kind of questions which they're asked are very different.
Yeah.
So from
then men.
So women generally will get asked, and this is a stats given and proven that women will be asked about preventive questions. How will you prevent from failing? How will you prevent this from happening? What happens if this happens? What is your... So they have to prove their track record. That I have done this and I will be able to do it. Like today, if I go and ask for funding, it will be a little easier for me because I've done it.
Right.
The first time, if I would have gone alone, it would have been a difficult journey. Men are asked questions of how do you see growth? How do you see expansion? How do you see the difference in the questions?
Yeah.
That is where, and women are just proving that I can do it. I have this thing. They're not asked vision. Hence the funding goes a little. So we need to change those conversations. We need to change that base level, this thing that, that perception that I had nothing to do at home and I wanted to do something of my, this is something which we need to change.
Yeah.
It's serious business. We create value when we are doing business, and that value needs to come out.
Right.
So it is very important to have the right toolkit to change this conversation. Like who was this person? She said, and so she was asked a similar question that what if you get pregnant? So she said, I'm raising a seed, not a seedling. It's just simple, right? It's a thing. So you change the conversation and you say that I will come to that, but let me talk about my vision for a minute.
Right.
You need to have that presence of mind to be able to stand up and say that is not a relevant question, that is a relevant question.
it's shocking to know how different it is for women and men. But I also feel like we as women have, like you said, we build care-oriented businesses. That emotion, that care is the most innate nature of a woman. So, in your experience, what is that one trait which is a very female trait which we can use as our superpower for investor pitches?
And it is a little cliched example, so excuse
No
me if
worries.
it comes across that. A female mind of multitasking and foreseeing multiple scenarios that, okay, somebody is, my kid is going to go to school and he was running a little this thing by the evening, and maybe he might develop a fever, and so I need to be prepared for this thing, and hence that whole scenario building which they can do in multiple directions in one go. And so the brains are firing in multiple this thing, and they're able to do each of those things very much better.
Right.
So that multitasking and bringing it all together is a huge strength. And there have been studies which prove that women are far better leaders because they lead by empathy, they lead by multitasking, they are more hands-on. Is that what makes them a better leader? So I think this is our strength. And for one thing which we have gotten which is better is our brains. I'm not, I'll get into trouble for this thing. I think we have the power of scenario planning.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's true. They say we overthink, but we really don't. We're just planning better.
Just planning better.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. I think great. Thank you. I think you really gave a very good perspective to how funding is, how it is for women founders, and of course diving back into digital transformation. I have the last question for you, and this is something I would love to know because again, it's a very Gen Z trait right now, but you've had 20 years of experience. You've seen yourself evolve as a woman. What is one thing you want to tell your younger self who's that rebel killed striving to make it? And I'm sure you've had that experience of I've made it. So what is that one thing you'd like to tell your younger self?
I think the one thing is which not only as a professional but overall, pleasing everybody is not your responsibility. Don't be in that. We have been trained, we have been fed this information that everybody should be around you, should be happy, your needs are secondary, your everything is takes a back seat. And I used to do that quite a bit in terms of going in a meeting, standing behind, still talking and still making the presence felt, but taking the prime spot at the table did not come very naturally. I would say, and that's what I said in the beginning as well, claim your space. Know that this is yours. Don't give it up.
Right.
Just because you've been taught to do so, don't give it up. I'm not saying snatch it. Never. Be humble. Be modest about your achievements and success and everything. But where it is rightfully yours, please do.
Right.
Please go. Because there are certain times like you're called, like when you're working with male counterparts as well, you will be called for speaking opportunities, you'll be called for some sessions in this thing. The natural instinct would be you go.
Yeah.
But why? Even if you're called, why should the other person go?
Right.
Claim your space. Don't have to be nice all the time. That's the only advice I could give. No. Do it with humility, do it with modesty, do it with your craft is the first thing you know, but take what's rightfully yours.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think that's very inspirational. I think that's the perfect end to this episode, because if there's anything that I've taken away from everything that you've shared is your entire career has been with the never give up attitude. Yeah. And I think you project that so well. And thank you for coming on and sharing all this information. I had a lovely time having this conversation with you.
My pleasure. And I didn't feel like a session. It felt like two people sitting and chatting and sharing life experiences. It was great. Thank you so much for all the lovely questions.
I'm glad.
I hope people like it.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Found Hers podcast. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.